This will be the first video of my app script series for writing Google Sheets scripts. So if you're an Excel user, this will be like an alternative. If you're doing Excel VBA, which is Visual Basic, that's the programming language you use to automate Excel tasks. Now in Google Sheets, you use AppScript, and the programming language is JavaScript. Now, if you're a beginner level with spreadsheets, these videos are probably not the best option for you. You may want to polish your skills first before you get into this. But this is probably as powerful as it gets of what you can do with Google Sheets when you get to actual scripts. So app scripts will let you, first of all, automate a lot of things, a lot of tasks in Google Sheets. They will also allow you to create new functions in Excel. I'm saying Excel, Google Sheets. Sorry about that. In Google Sheets that are not available as a default. So if you wanted to create your own custom functions, you can do that. In addition to all of that, you can also hook up your Google spreadsheets with some external data sources and other websites and so on. So you can do a lot of cool things with app scripts. For this video, we're gonna start with some very basics. So if you have some programming experience, if you've done some VBA, this will be a lot easier for you. Just keep in mind, if you're somebody in Excel who likes to record macros, there's really no recording macros in Google Sheets, so you'll have to actually write the code. But we'll get right to it. So first of all, when you open your new spreadsheet, you want to get to the AppScript editor, and you're gonna find it under Tools and Script Editor. That's where it is. So if I click on the script editor, you'll see on a new tab, it's gonna open my script editor. And on the top left, you see there's the name of the script. So I'm gonna go ahead and change that. That's our project. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this Learn Basics, I guess. Something like that. Hit OK. And this is our regular script editor, and the language we're going to use here is JavaScript. So if you're familiar with JavaScript, that's better. I'm going to try to zoom in here so it's easier for you to see it on a screen. So maybe I went a little too far. So as I'm zooming in, we can't see some of these buttons. So I'm not really sure what's the best option here. But for right now, let's just zoom in. So first of all, when you open as a default, you'll see there's this function. This is JavaScript function. So in JavaScript, the function syntax is you type the word function, there's the space, then this is the name of your function, and then you'll have your parentheses open, parentheses closed, and then you'll have your curly brackets, which will indicate this is where the function starts, and this is where everything that's in that function ends. And in between, you're gonna have the actual code that's gonna happen when you're in that function, right? So first of all, I'm gonna rename this function. So I'm gonna call it Learn Basics. And for right now, what we're going to learn is how to understand the spreadsheet concept. So I'm going to try to make these videos so even that if you don't have any understanding about programming, hopefully you'll be able to pick up and understand what I'm doing. But if you do understand and you do know object-oriented programming and you understand objects, it's going to be a lot easier for you to understand what's going on. So to be able to actually work with Google Sheets with an app script, what you'll have to understand is the core structure of how it all works. And in reality, like how it all works, first of all, I'm gonna go ahead to like Sheets Home. The Sheets home is like basically our app. So think about it, if you just opened Excel and you didn't open any file, that would be just open the program Excel. The same way we're opening Google Sheets. This is a plain program. I haven't opened any sheets. So the first level, what we're going to have is our application, right? Which may run all these different spreadsheets. Now inside of our applications, we'll have different spreadsheets that are listed in here, which you can think about in Excel case as opening a file. So in this case, I'm going to open this particular spreadsheet that we have, Google Scripts. So again, on the top level, we want to think about the first one is application, right? The second one is the spreadsheet. And in our spreadsheets, what do we have? In our spreadsheets, what we have next is different tabs or sheets. That's what we call them. So a lot of times when you click on this plus button, you'll have another sheet. Like right now, I'll have one that's sheet 1 and the second one that's sheet 2. So these are different sheets. So inside of our spreadsheets, we'll have different sheets. And finally, once we're on this sheet or on this tab, whatever you want to call it, inside of that sheet, we're going to have ranges or cells. So if you're an Excel user, you know what a range is at this point, you know what a cell is, or if you're a Google Sheets user, you should know what a range is. So it's a range. Also, a range could be individual cell. That's a range as well. It's the range B2, for example, right? So that's our ranges and cells. Now, the reason we need to understand this structure is because to be able to program, we'll have to always follow the structure to understand how to get to something. So to explain what I mean, I'm going to go back to the script editor and I'm going to go back to my function that I had. And in our script editor, what we're going to have, so I'm going to zoom out for just a second, and this part is going to be for probably a little more advanced users. So I want to show you something here. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, just do this logger log. And logger log is like console log. You may want to think about it that way if you're a JavaScript programmer. If you're in VBA, you want to think about print debug. That's the same alternative for that. And if you're new to programming, this is when you want to print something in your logs, and then later on you'll be able to access those logs to, usually it helps with troubleshooting and understanding what's going on. So right now I'm inside of those logger log, and by the way, everything is case sensitive here, so you have to be careful and make sure you follow that. I'm going to just say OMG, right? There it is. So it's text, so I'm putting it in quotes from both sides. Now what's going to happen, I'm going to go ahead and save this, and you'll see there's this play button. So that's our run button. So if I go ahead and click on that run button, it's going to run the script. And what I'm doing in the script, the only thing is I want to log this OMG text. So to access the log, if I go under view, you'll see there's your logs, and you can get there by your control enter, I assume on Windows, and command enter on a Mac. If you don't know, just open view and you'll see what a shortcut is. Open the log and you see that the log says OMG. It says when the date was, when that occurred, right? Time and all that, and then also OMG as the text, which is what I was logging out of here. So that's our log. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the debugger for a second to give you an idea what objects are available in Google Spreadsheets as you're using our app scripts. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this number 3, and that's my stop point where I want my code to stop. So a lot of times, if you're new to programming, if you don't understand what I'm doing right now in the beginning, don't worry about this part. So, but this is going to allow my code to run halfway until this line 3, and it's going to stop. and it's gonna wait for me to do something else. But what's cool about it, it allows you to look at different things as you're doing that. That's why I'm doing this. So I'm gonna go ahead and with this red stop point, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna actually click on this debug button instead of running, which is this little bug. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that, and you can see it opens this tool all the way down, and it's our debugger. And the reason I went to this, I want to show you this object that shows up here and what's in it. And this is going to be all the available classes or objects, whatever, however you want to call them, that are available in our app scripts that we can use. So you can see we have the browser, cache service, calendar app. These are a lot of different Google services. So the calendar service from Google, you have the Google Drive, you have Google Charts, Documents, and you can see there's a language app, linear optimization, and so on, mail app. There's a lot involved here, right? And one of this, if we keep scrolling down, is called all the way down here. If you look right here, it says spreadsheet app. And that's the app that will interact with our spreadsheets that we have. And that's where we'll be concentrating a lot as we do a lot of these tutorials about Google scripts. So spreadsheet apps, but these are all different types of services that can actually incorporate in your scripts from Google. Right now, we just want to remember that one, which is spreadsheet app. And again, this is case sensitive, so capital S, capital A, right? So, all right, so fair enough. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop this debugger. I'm going to remove the stop point because we don't really need it. But now we know what objects are available. So the object was spreadsheet capital A app. So that's our spreadsheet app, right? So what I'm going to do is assign this to a variable. So in JavaScript, you assign to a variable by starting with your var keyword, and then you type the name for your variable. So I'm going to call it, what are we going to call this? I'm going to call this app equals and this. And we have to end the line in JavaScript with a semicolon. So each line in your programming, the semicolon indicates the end of the line. You have to make sure you don't skip those. That's important. So right now I'm assigning the spreadsheet app to a variable, which is app. So on the next line, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go inside of this app variable or instance of that object. And inside of that app, what I want, the app, if you remember, if I said the main level here is our application, is the main thing, which is the program that runs. Inside of application, we have spreadsheets, right? So what I'm going to do, inside of application, so this dot notation will access all your methods and properties, like in many other programming languages. So and if you're new to programming, you want to think as the like in case of Google Sheets, at least, just think about it inside of this for now, right? So I'm gonna go ahead, and this is all different methods and properties, as I said, that you can see available for our app. And one of those methods, if you look at this list, there are a lot of different things we can do. We can, for example, create a new spreadsheet, which means it will create a whole new spreadsheet in our Google Sheets, like creating a whole new file in Excel. You can think about it that way. Now, one of those is get active sheet, not sheet, get active spreadsheet method. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that, get active spreadsheet. So again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign it to a variable, and my variable is going to be SS for spreadsheet, I guess. So that's going to be, the variable spreadsheet is going to be equal to this app.getActiveSpreadsheet method, and that's going to get the current active spreadsheet. So currently the active spreadsheet is this, that I have, which is this Google Scripts spreadsheet. Now inside of this Google Scripts spreadsheet, the next level, if you remember after the spreadsheet, is the sheet that you're on. So with the same manner, I'm going to go ahead and create a new variable, and this is going to be the sheet that we want. So I guess I'm going to call it active sheet, and that's going to be equal to, now this is the spreadsheet we have, so I'm going to go ss dot, and I'm going to access my get active sheet method. So there it is. So I'm gonna go over this, and by the way, you select one of these by hitting enter, so semicolon to end the line. So that will get us the active current sheet, which is going to be sheet 1 in this particular case, right? And then on that sheet 1, what I said, the next level is our ranges or cells. So what I'm going to do is go inside of that new variable, which is called active sheet. I'll go ahead and copy that and dot, and I'm going to get my range. So these are all different get methods. You can see we can say get the active cell, which is going to be the current cell that we're in, get active range, and so on. But the method that I want to show you right now is called get range. So let me just type it so it narrows it down. So you can see we have a lot get range method here, and there's like 3 of them. So there are many ways you can use get range method. And one of those ways, if you look at the last option here, is that says get range string A1 notation. So that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and do get range, and then I'm going to go the A1 notation. So this is going to select a particular, let's say we want to select a particular cell in Excel. So if I wanted to select this D2 cell, in this particular case, I can do a notation D2, and that's going to be a string notation. So D2 goes in quotes from both ends. So that's going to get the D2 cell. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do another dot to get methods here. So the method I'm going to choose is set value method, which is the way we're going to assign a value to that particular cell. And in quotes for this, in parentheses, I guess, for this set value, we're going to set the value. So I'm going to do 99. So if it's a number, there are no quotes. If it were a text, I would have done some sort of quotes around it, right? So I'm going to go with my semicolon to end the line. That's important. So right now, this script, what we're saying is, let's get the application, which is the spreadsheet app. We assign it to a variable app. Then inside of that variable app, we get the current active spreadsheet that's open. So we assign it to a variable ss, which is going to be our spreadsheet. Inside of our spreadsheet, we get the current active sheet. And then inside of that active sheet, we get the range D2. And then we set the value of that range to 99. So I'm going to go ahead and save this by Control S or Command S, or you can just click on the save button, and I'm simply going to run this. So right now, if you look at this, there's nothing in our D2 cell in our spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And what's going to happen when you run this for the first time, when you start using different objects and accessing different objects, it will ask you a lot of times to grant permissions to be able to access that particular app or whatever it is that you're trying to access. So I'm going to review permissions, and I'm going to allow the script to access the spreadsheet. And you only have to do this once for each object. So if you did this for the script for this spreadsheet, you don't have to do it again for the spreadsheet, right? So at this point, let's go back and take a look so you can see how our D2 cell says now 99. Now the range is actually a range. Now instead of a D2, I can say let's do D2 like an Excel range, D through F8. That's gonna be the new range. I'm gonna go ahead and hit and save and hit the run button again. Go back, and now you can see how every cell in that range became 99. Now if I wanted to put some text in there instead of a number, instead of using 99, which is the number without the quotes, I'm going to use quotes, and I'm going to say OMG, right? So there it is, save. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. So now you can say all the cells say OMG in them. So that's how you can write to a cell in Google Spreadsheet. Now the next thing, or a range, right? Now there are a few other ways to do this. Now the get range method has a few options. One of them was this A1 notation, which is basically a string Excel range we're passing through, and it works. But as an alternative, if you're familiar with Excel VBA, you know that in Excel VBA there's like a range object and there's like a cells object. So get range works both ways. It can work both as a range, and it can also work as a cells object. And what it means is that you can work with it as an index. So if I just take this off for a second, should get back to the documentation. So I guess we'll have to do this get range. So you can see that you can also talk to a particular cell by specifying the first argument is the integer row and the second argument is integer column. Pretty similar to how cells object works in VBA if you're coming from a VBA background, right? So if I did, let's say, and in this case it's going to work with an index instead of the regular way we will refer in Excel cells, we're saying C6, right? Or B6. The way it's going to work is by the index. So the first thing we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the sixth row, and it's 1, 2, it's the second column. And that's going to be our B6 cell. So to talk to our B6 cell with an index, the first thing we're going to start with a row, which is the sixth row. So we're going to say 6, and the column is going to be 2, which is our second column. And then the remaining is the same. We set the value to whatever it's going to be. So we're going to say some serious stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, run this. So now we should be able to see how we actually write to a cell in our Google Spreadsheets, just like that. Now, in addition to just doing this, maybe you already did notice we have some alternative ways of using this. So I'm going to go ahead again and, oops. Let's go ahead and cut this out, and now I'm going to show you a few other ways we can use this get range object. So you can see a method, so you can see how get range, as a third argument we can say how many rows we want to go, and as the fourth argument we can say how many columns we want to go from that particular starting cell. So I'm going to go ahead and type get range and open and close parentheses, just put the set value after it. So here, the first one, let's say, actually I'm going to move to sheet 2. And what's going to happen is because that's currently, because I moved to it, is going to be the current active sheet. So it's going to pick up sheet 2 automatically right now. So I'll work on this blank one. So let's say we want to start from this cell, B2. So that's the second row, second column, right? So it's the first one is the row 2, and the second one is the column 2 again, which is second column, and comma, the third one is number of rows. So if I wanted to go from B2 and then do 1, 2, 3 to take this much, that would be 3 rows, right? So I'm going to do 3. So right now, if I save this and I run this, if we go back, we should see how this is the starting point, and we went 3 rows down. Now, what if I wanted to get this range, and I don't want to use the notation, which would be from B2 through D4. I want to use the index. So again, I'm going to start with my starting cell, which is the second row and the second column. And again, let's do this because otherwise it's going to look all the same, right? Let's say I want to pick this much, or maybe this much, right? So it's this is the starting cell, which is the second row and the second column. That's the start. And then it's 3 rows down, which is currently what we have. And we can use this optional fourth argument, which will be how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 columns, right? So I'm going to go ahead and type 4, save, run this, and we should be able to see how it gets that area. So there are a few ways you can use get range function to pick different size ranges. So again, the first option was the regular string A1 notation, which is the same way it works like in Excel notation. And then we can also work with indexes. And later on, you'll see in a lot of cases, indexes are a lot better to use than A1 notation. But for now, that's that. So far, we've learned how to talk to a cell and how to write something in a cell. What we want to cover next is how to read data from a spreadsheet. So right now, let's say I want to read data from this cell right here, which says ranges or cells. That's what I want to read. And I want to be able to read what's in the cell and put whatever is in that cell in the serious stuff cell, which is in our B6 cell, right? So how can we actually accomplish that? So again, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to store the value of the cell in a variable. So to access that variable, first of all, it's in an active sheet, and I'm going to go to my get range. And now we can use either our A1 notation or column or rows or whatever we're going to use. So if I go with the rows and columns, it's the 6th row and the second column. So I'm going to put row 6, column 2. And in this particular case, what we're going to do, so if you remember what I did, I used the method set value the last time to set the value to something. So in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually use the get value method, which is going to get the value instead of setting the value. So that's going to get the value, and we're not going to pass any arguments to it. And we're going to set this to a variable. So we're going to say variable temp text equals to this. So we're going to store the value that's in that particular cell in this temp text variable that we have. And then what we're going to do, we're going to use that variable and put it in this serious stuff range. So, and again, it's a variable, so there are no quotes anymore. So I'm going to get it to the temp text variable. Now I said I wanted to make sure that I get what did I get? 6 and 2. Oh, apparently I said I probably forgot what I was doing. So I said I wanted to get this and put it over here, right? Which was the 4th row on the first column. So that's the 6 and 2, 4 and first. And where I wanted to put that was 6 and 2, which is I want to get the 4 and 1, which is the 4th row and the first column. And I want that same value to be in the 6th row, the second column, where it says serious stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and go ahead and run this. Go back, and you should be able to see how I was able to grab this and put that data over here, right in the cell. So I guess we're going to end on this for our introduction. If you want to see new videos about automation and Google Apps Script, make sure you subscribe, and new videos will be coming shortly.